Next on Headline Humboldt, the past 2 years have been a challenge for all of us. But if nothing else, COVID has afforded the beloved Kinetic Universe an opportunity to build better pipes and plumbing for all the coming human-powered glory. Also, authorities are still searching for a missing Native woman who disappeared earlier this month. Another sad addition to a long list of Native women who vanished over recent years, leaving friends and family behind. Coming up next. Live from the KEET studios on top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. As parents, a chief responsibility is to help our children develop an atlas of happy memories that they can draw on for the rest of their lives. Such memories help children learn who they are as people, how they want to be in the world, and help them figure out what kind of lives they want to lead. For many, however, that mission of fueling the synapses with a battery of vivid and joyous moments ends for themselves upon reaching adulthood, as if only a child's memories matter or have significance enough to merit the effort. Frankly, that's all garbage. One ongoing philosophical underpinning of the Grand Kinetic Championship is to encourage adults as well as kids to shed for a short time that typical reserve that comes with age. For a 3-day weekend late in spring, adults can dress up in ridiculous clothes, ride massive tinker toys into the sunset, and cheer for absolutely everyone who crosses their path. Sounds fun, right? We're still emerging from the depths of COVID-19. Millions of lives have been lost all over the world, and for many, the most remarkable frustration arises from that unsettling sense of helplessness. It's as if all their collected power wound up fizzling in the face of this new disease. For 2 years now, the kinetic race has been suspended, a happy memory lingering amid the neurons but never getting realized. This May, if all goes well, the race goes on, and the power will come from people. Tonight, we talk with two folks who have dedicated their time and energy to preserving the race, making it stronger, and marking as sacred the idea that one chief goal in everyone's life should be to have fun. Maybe our individual machines sometimes don't generate enough wattage on their own to fight off COVID-19, but they do provide more than enough juice to power homemade vehicles over roughly 38 miles of mud, sand, sea, and concrete. People power is alive and well, and tonight we'll learn who stokes the boiler. Now, the interview, Kinetic Universe President Stephen McHaney and Development Director Jennifer Thelander joined us via Zoom earlier today to talk about the kinetic phenomenon and tough choices they've recently had to make.
Well, I think the Kinetic Universe is, in fact, in a really good state right now. We've got a new board that's been in place for about a year, and we've really been focusing on the long-term stability of the board and the long-term stability of the race. And so a lot of what we've been doing over the last year is establishing procedures within the organization so that we can have a well-organized board of directors and a nonprofit that can transition between volunteers, because as you know, it's an all-volunteer organization.
Sure. And
we need to be able to have continuity over a period of time. And so the board has been working very diligently to develop procedures and policies and to create committees that run various aspects of the organization. And I think we've been very successful in beginning to create those so far. And one of the things we really looked very hard at is the finances of the organization, because as you know, money is very important to be able to run a nonprofit, because we do have a lot of important things that we have to be able to invest in. And our primary responsibility is in funding and organizing the race every year. And so that's really what our focus has been. And we've taken a long, hard look at the finances. And what we found and what we've published and what we've shared with the public is that the museum, which is a beloved part of the organization, in fact, was taking about 2/3 of the revenue that we had, of the cost of it. And a lot of that was really exacerbated by COVID, unfortunately, because we haven't had an in-person race for 2 years. And now that we're looking forward to an in-person race in 2022, we really needed to make sure that we were in a good financial position to be able to put on that race. And another thing that was really important to us with the museum is we want it to be a self-supporting, standalone, perpetual organization in itself. that we have to make sure that we have a robust financing plan for it, and we have a robust operating plan. And after months of deliberation and really trying to understand what we could do with it and what it was and what the potential of it was, is we found that it was really in the best interest of the organization in the near term to temporarily close the museum, really take a reassessment of what it is and what can be done, to gather a group of people to be part of a board-sponsored committee to be able to evaluate what the museum should be, and then put the wheels in motion to get the museum opened up again with appropriate programming, the support that is needed from the management who has to run it, and to really make it so it's a broader, more supporting part of the community.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a local for most of my life, and the museum is its own attraction. I mean, like there's the race, and there's all of the the event coverage and everything that goes into that, which has a special sort of zeitgeist, a spirit about it that is really exciting and joyful. But the museum sort of collapses all that history into one location, and you really get to see and understand the ingenuity that's gone into the race over the years. So do you guys have any kind of timeline about when you might be able to, make those, contraptions, for, lack of a better term, available to the public again to check them out?
Well, the first time we want to make those available as the attractions to the public is going to be Memorial Day of 2022, where we want people to be able to see it live.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
That's probably that is the most important part, because the museum exists because the race exists. And that we are going to create more history for the museum to highlight by being able to highlight an in-person race.
Absolutely.
So in terms, when do we get to have a physical space for the museum in a storefront? We currently don't have a time frame for that.
Okay.
We want to make sure we do this in a very thoughtful way, because something that's really important is that it's a sustainable organization. If you look back at the history of the museum and you talk to people who've been involved in it in the past, it's had numerous manifestations over the years. It has moved a number of times. It has had to close a number of times.
Absolutely.
In its latest manifestation, it's been in the current location for about 5 years. And Robot Adams, Queen Robotica, he was really the mainstay behind that, and was really just doing an amazing effort to put his all behind that museum. But he didn't have the support of a sustainable business plan behind him. He didn't have the support of a sustainable financing plan to be able to continue in that vein.
Yeah.
And so we want to take our time, engage the Kinetic community, and engage potential sponsors to be able to develop that further. And that's really one of the places where Jennifer is going to be able to come in the development part of it, because Jennifer's got a lot of experience in fundraising and in developing these types of programs, and in making it so that the programs can really meet the needs of those who are doing the financing of it, the donors to it.
Absolutely. Jennifer, on that front, I was going to ask about, the challenges presented by COVID without having been able to have a race for 2 years. The marquee level of the race probably drops a little bit. I mean, how do you maintain the finances if there is no actual race over the past 2 years with COVID? And how difficult has that been to, keep the finances on the up and up?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. We've applied for a few COVID relief grants to catch up on back payments of rent for the museum and things like that. We're not really doing a lot of outreach to our local business community for sponsorships. At this point, though, we are getting ready to transition into looking for funding for the 2022 race. Sure. Right now, because there is, we're in a pandemic and we're not able to produce our live events, we're using this opportunity to sort of do a lot of back end work. So we've been developing financial tracking systems so that which never existed before, so that when I do apply for larger grants, we can track where the money's being spent and do proper grant reporting. Sure. I've been building up our financial profiles with, federal and state grant funders. and just doing a lot of the sort of back end paperwork that hasn't been able to be done in the past, because we've had, generations of boards of directors that have been committed to putting on a race, and that takes up a whole year of time.
Sure.
So in this time where we haven't been producing a race, we've been sort of piecing together things on the back end so that we can really go full speed ahead and do do calls for funding, both at the federal and state granting level, and have, the pieces in place to be able to be good sponsees when it comes time to getting public business sponsors and things like that. So we've done a little bit of individual fundraising. We had an end of year fundraising campaign last year. A lot of that went to pay back bills that we sort of inherited when we took on this project. And we've done a little bit of, we did a virtual event that raised a little bit of money, helped pay off some back bills. And now in November, we're getting ready to launch a large end of year campaign and start our sponsorship drive for the 2022 race.
Now, that's sort of been the arc of the organization, am I right? I mean, like, before Kinetic Universe, there was a lot of informality and sort of casualness about how the race was run and sort of the finances, and that led to some difficulties, am I right? But the Kinetic Universe has been able to come in and sort of rescue the organization and make it more professional, ultimately leading up now to where you're hoping to be more, more of a sound bet for granting organizations and whatnot. Is that correct?
I would say so. Yeah, we're working on doing things like, getting audited financial statements and the putting together like all the documents that you sort of need to apply for grants. So that stuff hasn't really been available, and it's to no fault of anyone. Again,
Sure.
Putting on the race is a year-long project.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate this year that we are able to, we're the new people coming in. We haven't put on the race before. Steve's a 3-time grand champion. I've been a Rutabaga Queen for 10 years, but we haven't been on the back end on putting on the race. Thankfully, this year, we are partnering with the previous, board of directors. They're kind of holding our hands. We're bringing in a new team to help. And the people that put on the race before us, we've got like John Mantle, Suzanne Mantle, Katie, Texas. We've got a lot of people helping us put together the race this year and mentor, the next generation, and so that we can keep it going. But putting together all of that, manuals, policies, and things like that, we've been sort of quietly doing a lot of that stuff in the background so that we can hand it off to the next generation.
Absolutely. Now, Steve, that's one of the things about this race that's so amazing to from my perspective, is that basically this thing, I think, started in 1969, if I'm not wrong about the year. And it was an informal thing. A couple of guys raced down the main street in Ferndale. And since that time, it's been this cultural phenomenon that's been handed down sort of from racing generation to racing generation. And there always seems to be someone willing at the right time to step into the breach and sort of take on the mantle of either leadership or involvement, volunteerism, whatever you want to call it, to make it go. What do you think it is about the race that attracts that level of commitment from folks?
It is just a wild cultural phenomenon that I started enjoying it when I was a college student in the early 1980s, on the Arcata Plaza. And me, like many other people, said to myself, oh, I want to be in the race. That is so cool. I want to do that someday. And it did take me a while to actually get around to doing that. Not until like many years later, I had a teenage son, he's 14 or 15. He said, Dad, I want to be in the race this year. And it's like, okay, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We took a welding class at College of the Redwoods.
Wow.
And the first year we cobbled together some bicycles with a trailer that we pulled, and we didn't ace the race or anything, but we dragged this thing all through the race and we had a great time. And, I was hooked. The day after that first time we dragged that machine through the race, my son and I started building wheels for my next creation. And then I said, I'm going to be grand champion someday. And lo and behold, I was grand champion 3 times in a row with the Trilobike.
Wow.
And it was a massive amount of work to do it, but it is really fun. It is really rewarding. And it's a really important part of our community. And so people are willing to step forward to help this tradition continue. And it's evolving all the time. And so when Jennifer and I and the other members of the current board got together, we recognized the hard work that had gone in for many, many years in the past, and that people worked very, very hard to put the race on. And we wanted to help put some systems in place that could provide better long-term stability to the organization, to make it easier for people of the future to be able to run the race. Jennifer and I and the other board members, we're not going to be board members forever. We need other people to step up and do this, and we want to help provide them the tools to make it easier for them to be able to put on an effective race so this can go on perpetually.
Yeah. Is there anything special planned for the 2022 race when you come back from this 2-year-long siesta or the COVID slumber, whatever you want to call it? Is there any kind of special extravaganza planned, or how do you guys manage or plan on going forward that way?
We certainly want it to be as exciting as possibly can be. And it's really going to depend on what is the state of COVID at the time.
Of course.
We fully expect we're going to be able to put on an in-person race, and we want it to be as big and as outrageous and as fun as possible. And so very soon we are putting together the race committee so that people can come together and plan the events of 2022. It will be exciting. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be surprising, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
We have our first race committee meeting next week.
Okay.
So, we've all kind of got plans, but we haven't put anything down on paper yet because we're just getting started with the planning. But
Absolutely.
It's going to be it's going to be a great comeback for us, COVID willing.
Yeah. So Jennifer, what can people do if they are just fans of the race and want to help, stabilize finances or contribute money or volunteer? How do people get involved?
Yeah, so go to our website. We have a really exciting thing coming up. November 9th, we have our annual meeting. So we'll be talking sort of about the state of the organization and, and talking about sort of like our year and what were our goals for next year. So that would be a good place to start if you want to learn more about the organization. So you could come and be a glorious spectator at the annual meeting, or you can come and raise your hand up to volunteer for one of our committees. So you could go to our website, and there's a place for you to register for our annual meeting.
What's the URL? If you don't mind.
KineticGrandChampionship.com.
Awesome.
And then we'll also be having, toward the middle of November, we're going to launch our end of year giving campaign. Okay. We have a glorious match. So all of your dollars that you donate will be matched by a donor. So that'll be rolling out soon. Once we get sort of the bare bones of the Kinetic Grand Championship Committee put together, we'll also be doing a call for larger, we call them the ground pounders, volunteers and things like that. So if you want to volunteer, maybe not at a committee level, but you just want to be involved in the race, keep on paying attention to our website, follow us on social media, and there will be opportunities for you to be a part of the show once it happens.
Yeah, I think it was about 2002 or 3, I raced one year. We had a horse attached to a rig that someone else had built, and people had raced it over the years. It was probably the funnest time I've ever had over the course of 3 days. I remember distinctly being camped on the beach at the end of the first night, and surrounded by the silhouettes of all of these glorious, creations in the half light of the fire, and I will carry those memories with me forever. It seems like for a long time the operating philosophy of the race has been that no one ever has to grow up so much that they lose their sense of childhood wonder. This is sort of, as a last question and answer here, why do you think it's important that people maintain that ability to lose themselves in their imagination?
It's creativity. I think that the human potential of creativity is just so awesome, and that people have a lot more potential than they might think. And what I really want to emphasize is the Kinetic Sculpture Race is for everybody. You can be a spectator in the race, but it's for everybody who wants to be a participant in the race. You don't have to build a grand champion grade machine. You don't have to know how to do artwork. You don't have to know how to weld. Entering the race is easy. You could do it on a bicycle. You could do it on your feet. You can do it with almost anything that is human powered. You don't have to build anything. And so my message to people is the race itself is open to everybody and everybody's creativity. You can just come forth and do it and have fun and gather glory and give glory to others. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Jennifer,
I mean, Hans did it on roller skates.
Did it on roller skates, yes. I've seen people do it on snow skis.
Wow.
You can't underestimate the importance of play.
Yeah.
You know, even adults need to play. And I will say that I've had these experiences since joining this team where I've been tired, I've been exhausted, and, you know, I'm working for, you know, on kinetics more than I'm working on my paid job. And I'll be at my computer and I'll be putting together something, you know, a photo package for the newsletter or doing something like that. And I have to go through archives and find pictures. And I'm looking through these pictures and it's just, what is this weird thing that we're doing? This is wild. And so, you know, and it puts me in a good mood instantly, you know, seeing the creativity that's coming out of this community, from the spectators to the ground pounders to the racers themselves. It's unmatched by anything I've ever seen in my life. It's, you know, you've got the spectators that come out and they're, you know, excited to see their favorite sculptures. And like Steve said, there's something in it for everyone. They're dressing up. You've got the ground pounders and they're wearing, you know, their tutus and their vests with every bribe they've ever received. You know, everyone shows up in their own way. And I think that's what's so exciting about it, is that like you're involved no matter what. Even if you just come to the plaza on, you know, on the day that it starts, on the starting line, you're a part of it no matter what. And I think that, and for kids and adults, I think the other part of it that's so exciting for me is, you know, the youth engagement that we see in it. When you have those sculptures parked on the plaza, kids can go up and touch them. Mm-hmm. And we've even had a long time spectator tell us that one of the things that really got him to be a major donor for our organization and now a board member is because he brought his son that is on the autism spectrum to the race. And Steve McHaney, you know, before they ever knew each other, showed his son, you know, the sculpture, the trilobike, and let him touch it. And having that tactile experience, you know, made him love the race even more. And he came back year after year. He's not a local, and now he's a part of our team. And we hear stories like that all the time. I had a woman reach out the other day that, you know, told me that she was traveling through town and happened upon the race. And she met a guy that also was traveling on Memorial Day and happened upon the race. And now they're engaged. And this was years ago. So these great stories that come in, everyone has a different experience with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that shared experience kind of makes us all a community, makes us all a family, and it makes us all come back year after year. And that's another reason why, like, people like Steve and I are, you know, taking the baton and getting ready to pass it to the next generation. I started because Rutabaga Queens before me did the work, and I felt like it was my turn. And, you know, we're doing the same and hoping to pass it forward to the next generation.
Awesome, guys. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for doing what you're doing with the Kinetic Grand Championship. I think that you've taken on the task and you're furthering it for the whole community. So thank you for that.
We're doing it for the glory.
Amen.
Yes, everyone come play with us.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
This Sunday is Halloween, and Humboldt County health officials are equipping people with tips for keeping safe during the holiday festivities. Officials said trick-or-treating in small groups and other outdoor activities like visiting a pumpkin patch or taking a hayride are preferable to crowded parties or haunted houses. Officials also reminded residents that masks should be worn when handing out candy to trick-or-treaters. Where possible, tables can be set up outside to hand out individually wrapped candy. Humboldt County continues to be designated as an area of high transmission by the CDC, so keep interactions brief and bring lots of hand sanitizer. Above all, stay safe and have fun. Area tribes and law enforcement continue their efforts to locate a local 32-year-old mother Emmilee Risling. Risling was reported missing on October 14, 2021. Her disappearance has become an unfortunate part of an ongoing pattern involving missing and murdered Indigenous women. KEET contributor Ryan Hutson has the story.
The search continues for missing mother Emmilee Risling in northern Humboldt County. The Yurok, Hoopa Valley, and Karuk tribes have partnered with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office in the desperate search for Risling, who was reported missing on October 14th. Emmilee is described as 5'2", weighing 140 pounds, with brown eyes, and was last seen with brown short hair.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
A press release from the Yurok tribe on Wednesday afternoon explained, an interagency effort with additional staff and resources was mobilized to bolster the ongoing search for the 32-year-old mother. According to the Year One project, the Lost Coast area has more than double the number of missing and murdered Indigenous cases than in the Bay Area, despite the Bay Area having a much larger population, approximately 3 times larger than that of the Lost Coast. At a rally in Eureka last week, I spoke with a family friend who pleaded with the community for help.
Our biggest fear right now is that Emmilee may have tried to get to Klamath. But if she had been picked up on Monday and brought back to Humboldt County Jail because she was on probation and she was violating her probation, we wouldn't be going through this right now. It would have been one road trip from Hoopa to Eureka, California, and it would give us time to get her in a better place. And that is all we're asking for. So please, anybody who knows anything about Emmilee Risling, please reach out to us and let us know. Thank you.
Anyone with information regarding Emmilee Risling's whereabouts can contact the Hoopa Tribal Police at 530-625-4202. Reporting for Headline Humboldt, this is Ryan Hutson.
Eureka Police Chief Steve Watson announced this week that he will retire from his position atop the Eureka Police Department effective November 30th. Watson joined EPD in 2005 and has been the city's top cop since 2017. Watson's tenure was marked by an embracing of several progressive reforms within that department that focused on building community and engaging with residents. Watson, in a statement released by the city, said that after 27 years of service in the Army as well as in law enforcement, it's time for me to take a restful step back and reflect with pride on a career well spent, even as I look forward with enthusiasm to the next adventure. Watson said he will spend time with family, teach, travel, and finish his graduate degree. The search for Watson's replacement will start in the coming weeks. Point of personal privilege tonight. It's opening night for the Eureka High School rendition of She Kills Monsters. This play stars both my son Henry and my daughter Sophia, as well as their mutual friend Epiphany and many others. In addition to playing a role, my daughter drew the promotional poster. All the talent obviously comes from her mother. So if you can, sometime this weekend or next, catch a performance. Break a leg, kids, just not yours. Otherwise, happy Halloween to all. Stay tuned, stay informed.